Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Feathery Treasury show. My name is Aaron. I'm joined with Alex. How's your day going today, Alex?
It's going great, thanks. Nice to be here. It's been a while. It's been a busy summer.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Ready to relax. Yes, it's been a very busy summer. Got married, a couple trips, bought a house, got moved into the house.
In the house now.
In the house now, yeah. We're in our new recording studio in the basement. But yeah, it's been a hectic summer, so not as many episodes as we thought we would be doing, but we're here.
We're ready.
Yeah, so like always, we've been doing a walk beforehand, so let's recap what we just saw. It was a pretty productive walk, I think. It started off slow, but
Yeah, we mainly just saw mallards.
Yes.
A lot of mallards.
Lots of mallards. So we're at the new house, so there's a park a couple blocks away, like a 3-minute walk. So we went down there, walked around the lake down there, and when you first get there, yes, I mean, it had to have been like 50 to 100 mallards all just hanging out.
I was getting jump scares because it would just be right there in the trees next to us. So
I'm thinking people probably feed them because they did not care that we were right next to them. But it was nice to see. You know, can't complain. Mallards are nice.
they're all molting now. Especially we saw a male wood duck, and he was all
a couple of
tattered.
Ducks, yeah. So they're all looking pretty drab this time of year, but ducks are ducks. Can't complain. Besides that, we saw one rock pigeon, which is a pretty white one. There's nice white, black markings on it. Had a band on its leg, so must be somebody's escaped pet. Or yeah, I don't think anybody's out there tracking pigeons for any other purpose than to just have them as pets. But it was nice to see. About 6 ring-billed gulls flying around. They're being pretty noisy today. A lot of them sitting on the water.
Don't tend to see them there.
No.
I think it was when we got past the main part of the lake, and there was a little sort of swampy pond area and a bridge. And we stopped there because we were being dumb and couldn't remember blue jays.
Yeah.
And then we were like, what is that bird that's making that noise? And then in the process of remembering, we saw a couple of northern flickers.
Yep.
And then as we were watching the northern flickers, a green heron flew by and was like clicking.
Yeah,
I've not heard a green heron.
Yeah, that was a weird noise. I wasn't prepared for that.
And then there was 2 birds, one which we ID'd later, and then another one was kind of in the reeds, and we were pretty confident it was an immature male common yellowthroat. Yeah,
I think that's what we landed on. Immature male common yellowthroat. So it wasn't as bright as you would expect. We had to go back through to the pictures and figure out what that was. But yeah, a group of blue jays flew overhead, and we both just drew a blank on what noise that was.
It's like it's not a crow.
No, they're too small for crow. There's white on their wings. And the sun was kind of in a weird spot where it was kind of blotting out any colors. So we just saw big darkness go overhead of us, and.
But sometimes that's what gets you going, because we wouldn't have seen the green herons otherwise.
We stopped, and we ended up seeing quite a bit right there.
And then on the loop back, we heard two birds were doing like a call and response for quite some time.
Yeah. So I pulled out Merlin, did the old record and listen to see what it is, and it told us it was a warbling vireo, which neither of us had seen before. So we went trekking through the trees trying to find them.
We kept getting flickers. Like I saw it fly out of a tree, and then we went back to where we were, and it was in a branch. But then before you could focus the camera, and then there was like a kid and his dad going by, like yelling.
So we were like, well, we saw them technically. We'll count it. And we heard them. But then we got back here going through the pictures, and that mystery bird you had mentioned on the bridge, we zoomed in on it. And it was just clear as day a warbling vireo. So we for sure saw one. So we feel pretty good about that.
So that's a lifer for both of us. But it was just so we must have spent 15 minutes trying to get a sighting.
We had already saw one 10 minutes earlier, and we just didn't know it. So that felt great. Got a couple black-capped chickadees. That's obligatory, I feel like.
Yep, goldfinch, same.
Goldfinch, yeah. Four goldfinch, we think. 1 gray capper. There's probably more, but saw one for sure. And and the other one was a downy woodpecker. We think it's an immature one.
It was very white.
Yeah, we were kind of looking at it from the underside too, which didn't help. And I got some okay pictures. It's pretty fluffy, so that's what makes us think immature. And normally the black markings on its head were kind of just like a dark gray. But he's pecking away at wood. So
Yeah, there's not really
for
much
sure
else it could be.
woodpecker,
Yeah.
And the size of it was pretty small, so Downy seemed reasonable.
So yeah, 13 in total, which
Yeah.
after the first 10 minutes wasn't looking like we were going to see much. So
No, but I mean, a shared lifer, I think, made it all worth it for sure.
it definitely did once we see the other counts. I needed that.
Right, yeah. You'll be all right once you get back from your trip. You'll catch up. But I zoomed ahead of you here, but we'll get to that in a bit. So we'll start with you then.
Yeah.
What have you seen since our last recording? What was that, back in early June, late May, something like that?
Yeah, it's been pretty uneventful so far. I think my total now with today is 76.
Okay.
I was hoping to hit 80 before I left, but I think 25 is going to be more than achievable. Yeah. And I did get a lifer on one of the 3 walks I was going to mention. So nice. First, there's this place called Mark Graff's Lake Trail. We found it by accident. We're looking for somewhere to eat. I would say it's similar to the place we just went to. Took about an hour to loop. A lot of the usual gang, catbirds, goldfinches, hoodies, green heron. I think this has been the year of the green heron. I think I said that to Aaron on our walk, but I've seen probably about 50, 60 of them this year compared to previous. I don't know if I'm just getting my eyes on them, but the highlight was probably 3 belted kingfisher.
Nice.
I don't know if you've seen them in groups before. I usually only see 1 at a time.
I've seen like maybe 2 at a time, but yeah, it's usually 1.
So there's 3 of them in a dead tree, and then as we were looping a bit further along, one of them actually went over and was hovering above the water.
Oh, cool.
So we were hoping to see it dive, but it dipped out.
Dang.
And I actually saw my first ruby-throated hummingbird of the year.
Nice.
Don't know how it took me so long, but they had a little garden area for like butterflies and that kind of stuff to encourage the wildlife, and it was just sitting in the bush. I actually got to see it not moving.
Cute.
And still, so it was a good look through the knocks. After that, we went to Grass Lake, which is in the Snail Lake Regional Park. We've been to Snail Lake before, you and I, but not this lake, and it's new for us. Again, a lot of bird activity, goldfinches, song sparrows, trumpeter swans, we saw some yellowthroats, but there was a New Year sighting for me, at least flycatcher.
Okay. Those are tough ones to ID, so it's good to get some eyes on it.
Yeah, it was process of elimination, I think, because we were looking at it for some time. It was just kind of chilling out.
Nice.
Nothing standout otherwise, though. Again, saw a green heron, but it was hunting.
Oh, nice.
It was like a little pond, and a muddy shore, it's kept sort of stalking, its neck was extended. But maybe we wear the bad look, because it didn't get anything either. And then lastly, we went for a walk around the Harriet Alexander Nature Center in Roseville. I think that was the very first birding trip we did. I think it was 21 summer.
Yeah, 2021, that sounds right. That's a neat little boardwalk area.
Yeah, we saw, I think, killdeer was the big thing when we went.
That was probably, what was that, the first time you had seen a killdeer for, like, confirmed?
Yep, first time killdeer, and that was kind of on that back bit. But anyway, we went there, some eastern kingbirds, a lot of goldfinches, but we kept seeing sparrows, and initially we identified as a chipping. Mm-hmm. But then we used Merlin and got a closer look, and we actually realized it was swamp sparrows.
Nice.
Which makes sense, because that's a very swampy pond area.
Very swampy.
So that was a lifer, and considering how much I struggled to identify sparrows, I will take that.
Yeah.
So not too bad in the end. But yeah, nothing special, but hopefully next time I'll have some exciting stories. But I think this was your episode, because you had a good trip out east, right? Yeah,
I just got back about a week ago. I did a trip out to the East Coast, visit my cousin, lives in the Philly area. Shout out to Daniel. But I was only out there for like 3 days, but we packed in a lot. Saw quite a few new birds. And we'll go over that this episode. That'll be a Aaron heavy episode, and then next episode we'll do once you get back from your trip to the UK. Hopefully you'll have quite a bit to talk about.
Yeah, well, I've got to aim for, not birds you, so I've got to aim for at least the same.
Yeah, I think you'll hit your 100. But yeah, hopefully this will make up for the lack of episodes this summer. These 2 episodes will. But to start off, before I get to my trip out east, we had gone down to Iowa to see my sister-in-law back in July, and we were out walking the dog through this little prairie kind of park thing near her place, and there's all these birds doing this weird call that I didn't recognize, so I pulled out Merlin like you do.
Yep.
And they were dick sissels. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, isn't that the noise they make? That's what
Yeah.
that's what it's perceived as, is
Yeah.
them saying Texas or whatever it is.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was kind of neat to see. So yeah, I didn't have my camera with me or anything, but they were all over. But that was technically a lifer. I've probably seen them around before. I mean, they're pretty nondescript brown birds.
I think it's the cold that does them.
Yeah, but so that was a nice little surprise lifer back in July. But to get to my East Coast trip, I think it gave me 30 new birds for the year just from this trip. So first, this one's kind of iffy on the line, but when the first night I was there, we went for a walk along the canal by his place, and we heard an eastern screech owl going. It kind of neighs like a horse almost.
Okay.
So it was very, we could tell for sure what it was.
I feel like that when it comes to owls, like unless you have
Yeah.
night goggles, you're not gonna really
So
get
we
an
didn't,
idea.
we
on
didn't
'em.
technically see it, but like it was the only thing making noise. It was a very distinct call, so I counted it.
I would count that too. I think.
If you have an issue with that, Feathery Treasury at gmail.com, let me know. So that was a nice little first teaser of what was in store. So then the next morning we got up early and we went to the Wissahickon Valley Park. I think that's how you say it. That was in Pennsylvania, pretty close to the actual city proper of Philly, I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong. People from the area probably know better than I do. But there's a couple nice surprises. There's a spotted sandpiper.
Cool.
He was walking along the rocks in the river. I think that was a lifer.
Yeah.
I should have marked down on this list here which ones were actually lifers.
It's a rare one. I don't think we
Yeah,
get into it.
it was
Yeah.
a pretty bird. It was nice. It was like a slate gray. There wasn't
Okay.
really any spots on it, but got a good picture of it, so I'm for sure it's a spotted sandpiper. Just a weird name, I guess.
Mm.
And there was about 2 or 3 black and white warblers
Nice.
flitting around in a tree, which I was thinking going into this trip it was mostly going to be shorebirds, which it ended up being mostly shorebirds, but a nice surprise warbler was exciting.
You seen that one before? That's new. For
Not
you?
officially, yeah. This
Okay.
was that was for sure a lifer for me.
I think I saw one last year.
Yes,
But
here while we're recording, I'll pull up my lifer list on eBird, and then we can confirm as we go. Okay,
Oh, yep,
so
yep.
spotted sandpiper, I think I must have already spotted because it's not here on my most recent lifer list, but the black and white warbler is.
Yep.
So that was the first park we went to. That was a quick little walk. We were only there maybe 45 minutes because that was kind of on the way to the big place of the day, which was the Edwin B. Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge, which is over on the coast in New Jersey. So we crossed the river over into New Jersey. It was an hour and a half drive from the other park, so not too bad. And when we first got there, there was all sorts of signs saying that the wildlife drive was closed. They were spraying for invasive plants.
Oh.
So yeah, we were kind of bummed. We're like, all right. So there was a little boardwalk, a 10-minute long boardwalk that we went out on. You could see the helicopter out in the marshland spraying as it flew back and forth, which is kind of neat. But while we were sitting there was a couple laughing gulls flew by. There were some osprey, which is cool. We spent a lot of time trying to see this marsh wren down in the reeds. We could hear it. Merlin said it was a marsh wren. I've never seen a marsh wren before, so I was all excited. We sat there, we maybe could kind of see movement, but not really, and so we kind of gave up on that. So then we walked up back off the boardwalk. There was a little path, a little loop close to there, so we did that. And while we were doing that, we saw a bunch of fish crow flew overhead.
I've never heard of a fish crow.
Yeah, because they were doing calls, and I was like, well, that's a crow, but it sounds weird.
Okay.
And they're a little bit smaller than the American crow. So, did the Merlin app again. Confirmed they're a fish crow, which checks out.
They're more native to the East Coast.
Their coastline kind of crows. A bit smaller. They just sound a bit higher pitched.
Okay.
Their calls, yeah. So just kind of, you could tell something was different. So we saw those, and we went on the little loop, and right at the end of the loop, there's a little viewing hut thing And so we were in there, and then in the bush next to that, we heard another marsh wren. So for about 10 minutes, we were like peeking around this bush trying to get a good look at it, and finally we saw it. So
Nice.
I officially saw a marsh wren.
I think that was
Which
me
felt good.
last episode where we would hear it,
Yeah.
Merlin ID'd it, and we just waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally it showed its little face.
Exactly. So that felt good. So then we make our way back up towards the parking lot, and as we get up there, the maintenance guys are dragging away the signs, the blockades for the nature drive that they have. They were done spraying, so you could go out and do it. So it was like perfect timing. So
All thanks to that marsh wren.
all thanks to that marsh wren. Yeah, it all worked out nicely. So we hopped in the car. It's a 8-mile loop that kind of takes you out into the, I guess it's like a salt marsh, I guess would technically be what it is. So we did that. You drive out, you can pull off wherever you want. And there was, just thousands of birds out there. It was incredible. So some of the highlights of what we saw, there was about 5 or 6 American oyster catchers. Very pretty birds.
I've seen pictures, not seen one yet.
Yeah, they were really cool. Their beaks are just bright orange. Their backs are black. They're decent size. They're not very tall, but they're a bit beefy.
Okay.
There was, I think, just one semi-palmated plover. Very pretty birds.
Yep, I think saw them on Cape Cod.
Yeah. And semi-palmated sandpipers, I didn't even bother. There had to have been like 10,000 of them. They were just everywhere. They're just little guys. Because you'd be looking out on the mud flats.
Yep.
And you'd think maybe it's just lumps of mud. And then you realize every little lump is a little sandpiper out there.
I think that's what it was like for me when I saw some of those at Cape Cod. You think there's one, and then you just gotta, stare and you see the
there's
movement.
so many, yeah. There was a couple short-billed doe-witchers.
Oh.
Dew-witchers?
I don't know how to say that, and I've not seen one.
Yeah. A lot of these, like the dew-witcher and a couple others, I had to go back through my pictures and figure out what they were.
Pick through them.
Yeah, I had over 2,000 pictures from the trip, so that took an evening of just sitting there. So there was those. Lots of common terns hunting. Got some good pictures of them kind of hovering in the air about to dive. There was Forster's terns.
What's the difference between the two?
They're pretty similar looking. Forsters are just... I'd have to look at them side by side again.
Oh, okay.
But maybe a bit smaller.
Okay.
Then one of the best ones that I saw, the most fun to see, was the black skimmer. There was about 5 or 6 of them. They kept flying past us with their bottom beak is longer than the top part of their beak.
Oh.
And they just drag it through the water. I got a really good picture of one holding a fish that he had just caught.
Oh, wow. I've not heard of that. So they're kind of like terns?
They're kind of like terns. They're bigger.
But distinctively.
They're pretty big, yeah. They got a nice big orange bill on them, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So of those, the American oyster catcher, the doe-witcher, and the Forster's tern, those were all lifers. Black skimmer, I had seen one back in like 2013. Back in college, me, this same cousin, and another friend of ours, we did a road trip on the East Coast. I wasn't super into birding at that point, but we did have some pictures of black skimmers when I went back through the pictures. So technically not a lifer, but it's been a decade. So it was good to see
all
them
these
again.
birds I'm seeing in the UK, they're counting as lifers, even though
Yeah.
I've seen them for 20 years of my life.
And
That's
then
neat.
besides that, there was, thousands of great egrets, snowy egrets, osprey, great blue herons. Just tons. I didn't even bother counting them.
Need to head to the East Coast.
Yeah, it was very cool. I highly recommend this nature reserve that we went to, Edwin B. Forsyth Natural Wildlife Reserve.
Gotcha. What else did you see?
So after that, we went down to the Ocean City Welcome Center. The ladies in the gift shop at the other place were like, "You guys should go down to the Welcome Center down in Ocean City because there's a what do they call it? A rookery." They're like, "Yeah, go check out the rookery." So we're like, "All right." So we go, and it's basically this bridge that goes out to Ocean City. Right in the middle of the bridge, there's like this little island. And so there's enough room. They put a little visitor center, which was closed when we got there. But there's also this little path where the start of the path, you're kind of even with the top of the trees. And then it loops down. And then the bottom part of the path, then you're at ground level on this little island.
Oh, nice.
And it was, just tons and tons of black-crowned night heron, yellow-crowned night heron, white ibis, great egrets. There was a bunch just in the trees. There was immature ones all over getting fed. That smelled pretty bad. But
Yeah.
but it was really really cool because you're kind of like eye level with them up in the trees, and they must be used to people going down these paths because they were not moving. I mean, we were standing maybe 15, 20 feet away from some of them.
Oh wow.
And then I did see one tricolored heron, which kind of was in the back of my mind of something I wanted to see on the trip. And he flew past kind of quick. I got one blurry picture of him where you can tell for sure what it was. Would have been nice to have one sitting still, but I'll take it.
There's a lot of herons.
Yes, it was a lot of herons. The black-crowned night heron is a lifer. I had seen yellow-crowned night herons down in Florida. The white ibis I've seen in Florida. Great egret, of course, I've seen those. But the tricolored heron was also a lifer. And then there was one least sandpiper just hanging out for some reason on that island. Lots of laughing gulls, lots of herring gulls.
Gulls can be hard to tell too sometimes. I don't think I've seen
the laughing gulls they're pretty easy just because the size and then their whole head is completely black.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would help.
Yeah, but they're different than the Bonaparte gull. Like they're just different enough that you can tell them apart.
Yeah, I think I've seen a Bonaparte and heron, but yeah, no laughing, not yet anyway.
Oh, and I forgot to put it on this list, but going back through the pictures, there was at the Edwin B. Forsyth, there was a Caspian tern.
Oh,
there was
okay.
one Caspian tern hanging out in one of the pictures.
Nice.
So that was the first full day I was there. We were out of the apartment for it was like 13 hours. It was a long day.
Worth it
was
though.
very hot and humid out there, but definitely worth it. So then the next day, we kind of did the same thing, except for this time we drove down to Delaware. We went to the Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge.
When I see Delaware, I think Bombay.
Yeah, right. Pretty similar setup to the other one. This was a 12-mile driving loop, and there's quite a few hiking trails that you could park at, and it'd be like a half a mile loop that you'd hike out and back. So we were here for 4.5 hours at this one. Took us forever. But so the highlights of this place were there was mute swans, which are always fun. They're just so big and pretty. There was about a dozen American avocet, which those are not a lifer. I saw those out in Utah actually back in 2017. I think I was out there. But those are pretty.
So they're an interesting looking bird.
Yeah, very cool. There was 3 greater yellowlegs.
I think we saw one at old work, didn't we?
I think so, yeah.
By itself, it was a strange one.
These ones were kind of nice. They were doing their call, which I never heard. There were 6 glossy ibis, which were a lifer for me. They were kind of standing way out in the middle of this one pond. I mean, I got okay pictures of them, nothing crazy, but enough to tell what they are. Basically, they look like white ibis, except for they're black.
Oh, well, that would do it.
Yeah, but with the curve of their bill and everything, there's no way that's not what they were. On one of the little hikes that we were doing, there was 2 red-eye vireo, which I think technically were a lifer. I've heard them before, but never got my eyes on them.
The hard ones to get a full look at.
Yeah, the one sat really pretty for me, so got a good visual on it. There was one Carolina chickadee.
Okay. Is it much different from
Basically looks the same. You just kind of have to go off where you are.
Oh, okay.
And from what I was looking at on the map, chances are it was a Carolina one from where we were. One Carolina wren. That one took a while, just like the marsh wren. I heard it a bunch. We kind of sat around for 10 minutes trying to find it. Finally, we got a good look at it.
Was it in the trees?
Yeah, it was kind of in the trees, yeah. One eastern towhee. Saw him very briefly, but got a good look at the black, the white, and the orange on him.
I think I got an audio on one of those last year.
And Merlin confirmed that's what it was. So between the brief glimpse and the Merlin, I was pretty confident in that. That was a lifer. The Carolina chickadee, the Carolina wren, the eastern towhee, those are all lifers. And then there was, I counted 2, but we probably saw more. Counted 2, sorry, but we probably saw more blue grosbeaks.
Okay.
Which I mean, going into this, I hadn't really thought that I was gonna see those. It didn't cross my mind, but looking into it, it makes sense. That's kind of they're found out east. They're
I was
not
gonna say
really
we don't
found
have them here, do we?
No, I think very rarely maybe one will show up. But they were just hanging out right alongside the little drive, so we got some really good pictures of them. Some
Quite
good
distinct, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They're kind of like a beefier looking indigo bunting.
Oh, okay.
They got the thicker,
Yep.
gross beak. And then they got kind of orangish streaks on their wing.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, saw a male and a female. Probably saw other females, but they're kind of brown. So, but besides that, also at this place was a bunch of great blue herons, great egrets, snowy egrets, a bunch of mallards, ton of Canadian geese, a lot of gray catbirds at this one too.
Yeah, I felt like the Canadian geese haven't had much rep in
Yeah,
your
it
trip,
was
so about time they showed up.
For some reason, they weren't at the other one. They were at this one though, lots of them. So then after that, we went up to Maryland, to the Conowingo Dam. So this dam, I think in the fall, like in November, just like hundreds of bald eagles show up to it. But we're like, oh, we'll be driving past, so we might as well swing by, see what we see. It is a pretty impressive dam, and you can kind of see they've got nice viewing areas kind of down below the dam. So apparently,
See you underneath it.
during the busy season, apparently there's, just tons of cameras. Everybody posts up. They get there really early in the morning, get the prime spot.
I mean, it's like the big year where they're all running in.
Yeah, but I think it's because at a certain point in the year, the eagles are moving through, and also like fish are coming up right up to the dam. So they're just great pictures of them diving into the river to get fish. But when we were there was only 2 bald eagles, which is still neat to see.
You got a good picture.
I got some good pictures of them. There was 4 osprey. At this point, we were almost tired of seeing osprey. We saw so many osprey on this trip.
I think I've only seen one. I've seen one at a time about 5 times.
They were just everywhere out there. I counted 8 great blue herons. There's probably more. A ton of double-crested cormorants.
I can confirm. I saw the pictures.
Yeah, I showed you the pictures of them. They were
Yeah.
just all over the place. And then there was black vulture everywhere. They even had signs saying, like, park under trees at your own risk for vulture damage or whatever.
Like, would they land on them or
No,
do their business?
I
Or?
think their business is, like, acidic or something.
Oh,
I could
wow.
be making that up, but that was the gist of it, I think, is, you're warned that you might get a lot of vulture poop on your cars.
Wow. I've seen turkey vultures, but I haven't seen black vultures.
Yeah, well, I saw those the last year when I went down to Florida.
Oh,
To visit
okay.
my cousin. There was a bunch down there, but it was kind of neat to see them in a different state. But yeah, that about sums it up. It was
So how many new lifers was that in total?
so from this trip there was 15 new lifers. Or sorry, from the trip there was 14, and then counting the Dick Sissel and the Vireo today, that puts at 16 new lifers since the last episode. So for my
Total?
all-time total, I'm at 185. So I'm thinking next year, instead of doing like a yearly goal of 100, I'm going to try to go for a total of 200 all-time. Try to get that within the next year.
That's impressive. Yeah, I'm just over 100. But I know there's a lot of gaps from where I wasn't tracking in eBird.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, even over here, there's some, like I think a couple of the Vireos I've seen. So I know there's some gaps. I think 200 probably be a push. I think that'll be depend on if I do any trips to any other states.
Yeah. Well, it probably also depend on. I mean, you might come back from the UK trip.
That's
with,
true.
40 new birds or something that could help a lot.
That might depend. Otherwise, maybe 150 might be an achievable goal.
Yeah.
But we took trips last year to the Black Hills, South Dakota, and also the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. And we weren't doing any bird in there, but I know there was probably at least a dozen species that I wouldn't have seen here.
That's the part when you get into this hobby, you look back on trips and go, "Oh, dang,
Yeah.
that would have been a perfect chance to see something new." But
But
that's
then-
just the way it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But I didn't do a bird of the episode for this episode. I feel
It's
like
been a
there
busy
was-
one. It's been a busy one.
There was enough to talk about.
I do have a hypothetical for you,
Okay.
though.
Yeah, hit me.
It's this was kind of before the day in the Warbling Vireo.
Yeah.
I was desperate enough where I might have considered this, but Would you count a dead bird as a lifer?
I think it kind of toes the line. I know eBird doesn't accept them, so if you're an eBird purist, then no. But I guess in your head, if you want to, I feel like if it's dead and it's in its natural habitat,
That might be, yeah. If you see it die in front of you, you hear a clump, and then you look down and there's a bird falling out of the tree, maybe that counts.
Yeah. But I'm trying to, I forget, there's another program that they're kind of trying to do the eBird thing, but only for dead birds. I forget the name of it off the top of my head.
Morbid.
It might be like D-Bird or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, but
yeah, this one I didn't count it, but you've seen my neighborhood.
Right.
A lot of lakes and ponds, but my streets around it, they're just houses. There's no marshes, no swamps. But last week, there was a dead Virginia rail in our front garden, on our front step. And we have no idea. Like, it didn't look like a cat had got it, but even if a cat had got it, where did the cat come from?
Right.
Well, now was where was the rail? So yeah, I'm not desperate to add it to my time.
But it's still, I mean, it's a neat story.
But it was so...
It's probably cool to see it up close.
Yeah.
Shame it was dead, but...
I just don't know why it was there, where it came from, but
weird. No. Virginia rail, I've not seen one of those either, so...
Because what was if, say, a bird of prey grabbed a bird and you saw it take that, and that was a lifer. Do you count that?
That's a good question. Yeah. I guess it just kind of depends on each person, how they feel.
Yeah. I think if I saw an osprey sweep up some sort of...
Yeah. Well, because, like... For a little bit there, it's probably alive at that point.
Yeah.
Before it actually kills it, but
on that happy note.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that'll do it for us on this episode. I think it was a pretty full episode. Finally, we finally got a good trip to talk about.
Fingers crossed.
Next one should also be a lot more Alex talking. This was an Aaron heavy episode. Next one will be Alex heavy. Hopefully you see quite a bit. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, I think there'll be some standard ones. But I'm going to Scotland. I'm hoping some birds of prey would be good. Maybe some gulls of some kind.
You gonna be at the coast at all?
Gonna be at the coast. We'll be at English coast for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe the Scottish coast too.
So hopefully you see something. Like, are there puffins up there?
I'm not sure if they're I've seen puffins before.
Okay.
But again, pre eBird days, so there might be something. There is a bird refuge type place, kind of similar to yours, where there's a lot of marsh birds and that kind of thing.
You guys are checking that out?
So I'll definitely go there. Perfect. I've always went there and looked. Oh, there was some pretty birds, but never tracked anything. So that might be it could be a bit like yours, where maybe see 5 or 6 new ones for sure. So I think 100
you'll hit 100 for sure. Yeah. Because what you're at, you said 84?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, 70,
74.
Yeah.
Okay. So 26 new ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you'll be alright.
So, we'll see.
Cool.
But I'll be back come back at the end of September, so...
Okay. So we'll probably record October-ish, sometime mid-October. So be on the lookout for that episode. But thanks, Alex, always, for joining me.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you want to email in, it's featherytreasury@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can just check out the website, featherytreasury.com. Have a good one, everybody.